just a few minutes ago, our friend Caroline Levitt, as I told you, was hosting a press briefing, and this follows the early morning press briefing that Pete Hegseth hosted that dealt with the leaks, which tried to suggest that there was not success from the Iranian nuclear site attacks on Saturday. And, man, Caroline Levitt went scorched earth on the CNN reporter who initially said, hey, these attacks did not have their desired impact. This is what it sounded like. Play cut 26.
Natasha Bertrand published an article in Politico from the intelligence agency. She said that John Ratcliffe was speaking without any evidence when he said Iran was attempting to undermine President Trump's presidential campaign. And then we, of course, found out that was absolutely true. In fact, the Biden administration declassed an intel report which said they had high confidence that Iran had done exactly what Ratcliffe alleged. They did run an influence campaign to hurt President Trump's candidacy. In fact, we know the Iranians tried to take President Trump's life. And so this is a reporter who has been unfortunately used by people who dislike Donald Trump in this government to push fake and false narratives. She should be ashamed of herself. And that's not what reporting is. Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth. And this week, we saw this same reporter being used to push a fake narrative to try to undermine the President of the United States, and more importantly, the brave fighter pilots who conducted one of the most successful operations in United States history.
I mean, she's laying it down. I just would say, Clay, that I've been doing this. You know, we had our 4-year anniversary of the show. I've been doing this media thing for about 15 years. And we had gotten so used to, on the right, before Trump came along, that our side was just supposed to always have this one-way courtesy where no matter what the media says, no matter how they lie, how they attack, how they do all these things, you know, if you go back to the Bush-era GOP, it was all, oh, well, we'll have to get back to you on that, or, you know, let's stick to the matters at hand or whatever. No. If someone takes a swing at you in a bar fight, there's really only one thing that you can do in response. And that is one of the brilliant changes that has been brought about by Trumpism. Not only we see by Donald Trump himself, but also Pete Hegseth dealing with the media, Caroline Levitt dealing with the media. You'll notice there's a lot of questions that get asked, and it's fine. And they're getting information, and they can write their stories. If you want to ask a real question to the White House press secretary or to the Secretary of Defense, you know, hey, can you tell us more about the following? Hey, they'll respond, and they're respectful. But if you want to say, when did you stop beating your wife, so to speak, they treat that like a hostile, either interrogation or hostile prosecutor in a court, as they well should. And I just think that it's such a, for so many of us who've been doing this and watching this for a long time, Clay, it's such a relief that we don't have to just watch everyone on the right get skewered and humiliated in public because that's what decorum demands. It really doesn't. And this is a much better way. You know, you meet respect with respect. You meet attacks with counterattacks.
I also think this is a sign of how much better Trump 2.0 is than Trump 1.0. And I'm not trying to take shots at the people who worked for Trump in the first administration. There is just so much talent. And the talent has a variety of different perspectives. It doesn't get enough attention. Tulsi Gabbard ran for president against Trump in 2020 as a Democrat. Now she's in the cabinet. You had RFK Jr., who's the most famous Kennedy, lifelong Democrat. Trump brought him into the coalition as well. There's a lot of you out there listening, the Maha Moms, who otherwise wouldn't have voted Republican, but have found your way into this as a reaction to what you saw happen related to COVID. The tent, the coalition that Trump has built, even, look, people out there were in a position where some people said, hey, we should never do the attacks on Iran. Others, you and I, said, hey, we think this probably makes sense. If they have the nuclear assets, we should try to take them out. A robust debate over that. There's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, I think it reflects upon the strength overall of the coalition that this is where we are. And I just think Caroline Levitt, I mean, talk about great communicators. Pete Hegseth earlier today setting the agenda from the Pentagon. And now you have Caroline Levitt coming out a little bit later in the afternoon, also setting the agenda. And it wouldn't shock me, given the fact that he talks to reporters all the time, if Trump comes out and he's the third batter of an agenda-setting coalition all day long. And I just think it's a credit to the team that he's put together what exactly is going on. So that was Caroline Leavitt. I was also going to play a little bit of a different angle here. We mentioned the New York City race, the mayor's race. Chris Cuomo, I don't know if you heard this yet, Buck. Chris Cuomo, obviously younger brother of Andrew Cuomo. There's a lot of talk about the uncertainty of how things were going to go inside of the Republican caucus surrounding Iran. Well, Chris Cuomo now has come out and said the AOC socialist wing of the Democrat Party just needs to leave the Democrats because they're not actually Democrats. Listen to this.
How do you keep them from having the nuke? Impeach Trump is the opposite of having a better idea. You're killing your party. You're killing your party. And look, I hope it works out for you. I hope you guys splinter off and become, whatever you really are. Because you're not a capitalist and you're not a Democrat. And, you could say, well, what do you know? I was raised by a real one. I was raised by a real one. Go ahead and criticize Mario Cuomo. What's going to be your biggest insult? That he spawned me and Andrew? Is that going to be the best you have? Because you ain't compared to him.
Whoa.
Wow. I mean, Chris Cuomo fired up his dad, obviously, Mario Cuomo, Democrat governor of New York. I do think that there is an unholy alliance which may at some point explode inside of the Democrat Party. Again, when you have a big tent, it means that you may have people coming from a variety of perspectives. I was just talking about the big tent of the Republican Party, and everybody spent a great deal of time talking about the interventionist versus the anti-interventionist wing of the Republican Party over how to respond to Iran. How about what Chris Cuomo just said there, Buck? There are big parts of the Democrat Party now which don't believe in capitalism. That seems like kind of a big deal. It used to be there were elements of the Democrat Party that were very pro-business. That's not really the case anymore.
Well, I think that, unfortunately for Bro Cuomo, the Bernie wing of the party and the far, especially if you look at the demographic data on age, they're more powerful. The people who the Cuomos of the world who cling to maybe a more Clintonian era of Democrat life has passed them by. I mean, that is no longer the case. You are now you saw this with Biden, right? Biden was the facade, right? The dementia puppet used to fool voters for the radically left-wing stuff. I mean, you look at the radically left-wing spending, radically left-wing gender identity stuff, racial division
radical
stuff,
border policies.
Radical border policy. I mean, Biden was a complete Trojan horse, which we knew all along. This was not a surprise to any conservatives. I was saying that when this is back in 2020. A lot of people on the right recognize this. But why would he be a Trojan horse? Well, because they can't tell people who they really are and win national elections. But that's who actually runs the Democrat Party. It is the AOC Bernie wing of the party that is ascendant, and that is the central ethos now. And it's the other people who are really just used to create a greater comfort for the middle of the electorate that is based on the false promise of moderation. They're not moderate. The Democrat Party is not a moderate party. You must be a radical on abortion. You must be radical on the borders. You must be radical on spending. You must be willing to tolerate radical anti-Israeli and anti-Jewish sentiment. I mean, there's a lot of stuff when you add it up. There's no shocks, no surprises here when you look at it where this party's going.
I think it's an interesting question. What actually unites the Democrat Party right now? We've talked about the fact that they don't have a true leader. But what motivating ideals, other than America's awful, white men suck, really actually coalesce across the entire Democrat Party? I think that's one of the challenges. I'm not sure what they actually even stand for. We'll talk about this some and continue to roll through the Thursday edition of the program.
Just real quick, I was talking about socialism and that Naval line about how it's a suicide pact for mediocrity, as that's what socialism is. But really, we talk about the race communism in this country. It's just another way of using the resentment and envy that is present in any large population of people in this country and in other countries too. And a lot of it has been blamed on whiteness as a concept.
Yes.
Now that's different than blaming it just because there are a lot of white people that buy into that, right? But whiteness as a concept has been used very much as part of the divide and conquer strategy of Democrats.
We'll come back. We'll talk about this more. I mean, I think it's an interesting question. What is the motivating unity policy that connects Democrats today? In the meantime, we're faced with big decisions each day. Sometimes it can be, what do you do with health care? And if you're having to deal with the Affordable Care Act, a.k.a. Obamacare, why? I'm telling you, there's a better option. It's called Ease for Everyone, offers affordable health care for as low as $262 a month. You can keep your doctor, never pay a deductible, have access to over 400 prescription drugs for free. Go online to their website, see what the plan is that's right for you and your family. Ease for Everyone, developed by smart, forward-thinking experts in my hometown of Nashville. You'll be speaking with people who live in your world and can speak your language, answer your questions. Visit easeforeveryone.com/Clay to join today. That's Ease for Everyone, FOREASEFOR, easeforeveryone.com/Clay. That's easeforeveryone.com/Clay.